Classic Historical Tales presents A Tiger's Promise, Episode 2, Boston, May 2023. The sky was smeared with slate-colored clouds when 15-year-old Jim Harding opened the hall closet in his family's creaky old townhouse. He was supposed to be helping his mom clear out clutter, but truthfully, Jim had always liked rummaging through old things, especially when they hinted at secrets. The shoeboxes were dusty and dented. Each was filled with photographs, weddings, graduations, picnics, strangers in clothes from another time. Most of the pictures were faded, their edges curled like dried leaves. Jim sifted through them, occasionally showing his mom the funny hairstyles or bell-bottom pants. But then one photograph stopped him. It was a black and white print, creased and brittle, with two men standing proudly in front of a plane. Not just any plane. Jim knew that shark mouth, a P-40 Warhawk. One of the flying tigers. His heart skipped. One man was white, wearing a leather flight cap and a wide grin. The other man was Chinese, younger, his expression solemn. Behind them, the P-40 sat like a sleeping predator, its eyes glaring and teeth bared. Jim flipped the photo over. Written in faded, almost illegible characters, Chinese or maybe Japanese, was a message in delicate, hand-drawn script. Jim furrowed his brow and grabbed his phone. He opened Google Translate and hovered it over the back of the photo. A shaky translation formed on screen. "Should my friend Tommy die during this war, his children should please seek me out for help." He read it again. Then a third time. "Tommy?" He bolted into the kitchen. "Mom," he said, holding the photo, "do you know who this is?" She looked at it for a moment. That might be your great-grandfather's brother, or maybe your great-grandfather himself. Someone on Dad's side flew in the war. I forget the name." "Did he die?" She nodded. "In World War II, I think. Why?" Jim held the picture like it was radioactive. "Because someone wrote this on the back, in Chinese. It says something about helping Tommy's children if they die in the war." She frowned. "Ever since Daddy passed away, you've become interested in his side of the family, Jim. I wish I knew more about his family, but I don't." Jim replied, "After school tomorrow, can I take a bus to see Uncle Gus in Springfield? He might know something about this old picture." Jim's mom said, "Yes, you may, but make sure you're back by 10 p.m. Jim had only met Uncle Gus once or twice, but the man was legendary in family stories, old, sharp as a knife, and once a Marine. He lived in a tidy apartment in Springfield, filled with clocks and faded Red Sox memorabilia. When Jim handed him the photo, Uncle Gus fell silent. His hand trembled. "I'll be damned," he muttered. "I haven't seen this in 70 years. "Who are they?" Jim asked. Gus spoke slowly. "Tommy Kane, your great-grandfather, flew with the AVG, the Flying Tigers, way before Pearl Harbor, volunteer group, brave men." Tommy probed. "Who's the other guy?" "That's Captain Li Wei, Chinese Air Force, Republic of China. They flew missions together out of Kunming, tight as brothers." Jim flipped the photo to the back. "Do you know what this says?" Gus stared at it, voice low. "It's a promise. Lee wrote it, after Tommy died, said if any of Tommy's children needed help, he'd help. That was the kind of man he was." Jim felt a strange heat rise in his chest. "No one ever told me about this." "Most people forgot," Gus said. "Wars end, photos fade." That night, after returning home to Boston, Jim sat at his desk, the photo beside him. He typed into the search bar of his laptop, "Li Wei Flying Tigers 1941 China." Most of the results were about the AVG and Claire Chenot. But deeper down, he found a personal blog by a Taiwanese history teacher who had written extensively on ROC pilots and American alliances. One entry featured a grainy photograph from a 1970s reunion, an elderly man in a Republic of China uniform standing beside a museum display with a shark-nosed P-40. The caption read, "Colonel Li Wei at a veterans reunion, 1981. Flew with AVG pilot Thomas Kane, died in 1983. Jim stared at the date, 1983. He could barely breathe. Li Wei had died before Jim was born. But there was something about Jim that thought this whole history was fascinating and wanted to find out more about this loyalty pledge. Jim messaged the National Palace blog's contact form. "Hi, my name is Jim Harding. I found an old photo of my great-grandfather, Thomas Kane, with Li Wei, standing in front of a Flying Tigers plane. I think it's real. Can you help me find out more? I've sent a copy as an attachment in this email for you to look at." An email reply came 3 days later. Dear Jim, thank you for your message. I'm honored you reached out. Your photograph is a treasure. I showed it to a colleague here in Taipei who studies ROC veterans. He recognized the image and confirmed it is indeed Captain, later Colonel Li Wei. There is a personal journal in the Taiwan War Archive that mentions an American pilot named Tommy Kaye. It matches your great-grandfather. Sadly, Li Wei passed away in 1983, but he had son, Professor Li Zhong at NTU in Taipei. You would have to write him for more information. Jim researched and found an email address for Li Zhong, professor of zoology at National Taiwan University. His email to Professor Li Zhong was short. Dear Professor Li, my name is Jim Harding, I'm 15 and I live in Boston. I recently found a photograph of my great-grandfather, Thomas Kane, standing with your father. It had a message written in Chinese promising to help his children. I think they were friends, maybe brothers in some way. I just wanted you to know I found it. 2 days later, a response. Dear Jim, my father never forgot Thomas Kane. He called him Fei Xiong, flying brother. He told me your great-grandfather saved his life during an ambush over the Salween River. After the war, my father searched for your family, but contact was lost. When he passed in 1983, he left behind a locked wooden box. I opened it for the first time when I received your letter. Inside were one dog tag and a pair of cracked leather goggles. He believed that one day someone from the Kane family would find him. I am honored to send the items to your home. They belong to you now. Respectfully, Dr. Li Zhong. Outside, rain fell on the streets of Boston. Soft, steady, patient. Jim stared out the window, his heart wrapped in a sense of something much larger than himself. Two men from two different worlds had met in the sky, and now, 80 years later, a 15-year-old boy was the last link in a forgotten chain of honor, brotherhood, and memory. Jim smiled. Stay tuned for episode 3 of A Tiger's Promise.